So, listeners, there's something you should know. I am Lou's father's, brother's, cousin's, nephew's former roommate, which means absolutely nothing.
It's time to take an inside look at those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a director of business development at Microsoft, board member, startup advisor, presidential leadership scholar. She's also got these things on her resume. She was a refugee, an immigrant. She's a survivor. She's a truly determined soul, confident human being, and most notably, one that thrives through every obstacle she faces. Thrive Loud listeners, Tina Tran. Tina, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Tina, we were introduced through a whole series of people that we know that people said, you got to get her on the show. And I believe you were on Andrea Koppel's show, Time for Coffee, which is one of my favorites. And I love how she finds these unique people in these unique jobs. And she literally not only sent me an electronic message, but she called me afterwards and said, you got to talk to this person. And your listeners will love it. So I think this is true. Tina, I know your story, but our listeners don't. If you could, bring us up to speed, because you've had a very interesting first memory all the way through to where you are today. I know that's a long way to do it, but maybe give the quick version of whatever works best for you. How about that?
Sure. So my first memory in life is being handed to pirates at sea. This was during the escape from Vietnam that a lot of people did in the late 70s. And at the time, it was kind of like, you can stay and your family might be thrown into a re-education camp. Who else knows what might happen to you? And there's really no future, that can be seen that comes out of staying, and it's dangerous. And so there were only so many people that the U.S. could take with them when they left in 75. My mom was pregnant with me. So while we were offered a route, we decided as a family that it wasn't safe for her to go with the pregnancy. Mm-hmm. So we had to wait our time and then leave. And I was about somewhere between 3 or 4 years old at the time, because it was a long experience. After that, being handed over to a boat of pirates, the thinking was, well, we don't know if they're friendly or unfriendly pirates, because the unfriendly pirates are the ones that board and rape and kill everyone. And the friendly ones are the ones that just board and take your stuff and then leave, right? So that's that's not bad, it's just stuff. And so we'll hand over the small young girl, and if they throw her over the boat, then we'll know that we're not in a good place. And if they don't, then there's a chance. So it was weird, because, I remember this clearly, trying not to cry, trying to be happy and smile and not piss them off, right? Because that's not a good thing. And there were a lot of people depending on that. So I did what I was supposed to do. And whether or not it impacted the rest of the boat, we were all able to carry on afterwards. Mm-hmm. So we landed in Malaysia, and I lived in a refugee camp for nearly a year with my family. So my first memories of kind of growing up, being a kid, is being in this refugee camp where, it's a rough place. Refugee camps aren't just full of families, they're full of anybody that can make it to the camp. Yeah. It's very dangerous, very scary when you're that young, just don't know your surroundings and don't know the people around you. So it was I was a very scared little girl. It was an interesting first start.
How did you progress from Malaysia eventually through time here? Obviously, impressive start to go through. When did you make it, I guess, back from there? Would be back east, even though it's west over here, whichever part of the globe you've been.
Well, my mom had family in the U.S., so they sponsored us over, and I grew up in L.A. and Orange County, where a lot of Vietnamese refugees lived and made our home. I think it was most similar to the weather that you have in Vietnam. It's kind of warm and hot, right? It's very welcoming. Right. And I was really lucky. I felt through my experiences in the camp, there was one experience where I stepped out and I took a chance. there's a story I tell about how the moms get in line every day for their milk allotment, and then the kids stand in line every day for your cookie allotment. And one day I decided I wanted more than one cookie because I was constantly hungry, just all the time. And so they put a big X on your hand when you're getting a cookie because you all look the same. And that's how they keep track of who had one. And I went and I took this rough borax soap and basically scraped the top layer of my skin off to get the X off. And I came back with like my heart beating out of my chest, showing them both hands. And they gave me a second cookie. I came back and I sat down on the ground in our little encampment. My mom said to me, I thought you already had a cookie today. And I said, oh, I knew what I'd done was wrong. I said, well, I did this thing and this is my second cookie. And I was really hungry. And she looked at me and she looked at my brother who was sitting next to me and she said, I don't know about you, but you're going to be okay. Whatever happens, you're going to be all right. You're just going to find a way and you're going to be okay. So yeah, that was a lesson for me early in life that it was okay to take chances and that sometimes it worked.
You've had lots of chances. And by the way, a lot of their story, we're going to provide links to this, were interestingly chronicled and featured in Bush's recent book. You want to talk a little bit about that? I want to highlight that first because it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, really timely release of President George W. Bush's newest book called Out of Many One. And I had the chance to meet him when I was in the Presidential Leadership Scholars Program. It was it was a program that was created by Bill Clinton and George W. Bush in conjunction with the libraries of George H.W. Bush and Lyndon B. Johnson. And it's their way of investing in who they can see as leaders of tomorrow and making sure that we have each other as a cohort, as a network that we can lean on one another and that we can lean on them for their different experiences they had and things they went through when they were running for all the way up to presidency and afterwards. So getting to meet the presidents one-on-one was really powerful. And when I met President Bush, I had the opportunity to sit with him at dinner and I was able to tell him my family story. And I think when he decided that his next book was going to be on immigrants and refugees, he was kind enough to ask if I would be a part of it. So it's coming out next month. 4/20 is the release date. It was delayed a month. It was supposed to come out this month. And I don't even know what picture he painted of me. I think he just chose a picture and painted it. So my friends, I think, are going to the premiere, or there's some early viewing tomorrow that they live in Dallas. And I'm just like, take a picture because I don't know what picture he
I want to give the listeners this component of what you've then done, right? So you graduated UCLA.
Yeah.
You have worked in many different tech companies throughout your career, survived the financial crisis during some interesting times. Obviously, I know you worked at Wells, I believe, during that window, right?
Mm-hmm.
During
that was right. I left Wells right before the financial crisis, which was probably a mistake because I went to a startup. They don't fare very well during financial crises.
And have progressed to very impressive names of all different companies. I mean, just looking, obviously working one time at Facebook and obviously progressing through all these different areas of time. You find opportunities and then you take them. And I think that's very interesting, right? It feels like these circumstances hit you and you maneuver ahead of them. Do you think that's part of your DNA, or that's just how is it looking forward and that's the path you've been taking, or did we just try and connect the dots moving backwards and looking back in time?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think you have to know what you want to do because it's hard to be successful and lucky if you don't contribute to that luck, right? So it's having a path. For me, it's always been setting goals. And if I didn't have the goals, then I wouldn't know what path and how hard to persist and try. So I think that's for me the gauge. And then you often get knocked off on your feet because that's what happens when you are trying to do hard things. You're gonna get a lot of no's, and you're gonna just have to persist if you can believe in yourself. And I'm very fortunate. From a very young age, I had this confidence. I don't really know where it came from, but I think actually I do. I had some bad things occur in my life when I was younger. And I found that when I had the ability to stand up and say no, it worked. The saying no is like, to me, one of the most powerful words in the American, like the English language, in any language. To be able to stand up for yourself and say no is so powerful. And I did that a couple of times when I was young, and it worked. And as an adult, and as I got older, I was very good at standing up for myself. And I like people, so it's not like going around saying no all the time, but it's just knowing where your boundaries are, enjoying life, enjoying people, but also knowing that like these are my boundaries. And I think that's where self-confidence comes from, is being able to know yourself and feel like what you believe in your heart is the right thing, and that you can stand up for yourself, whether it's applying for a job, whether it's applying for the dream job, whether it's applying for the dream school, or whether it's, telling a boss to go and what they've done is wrong and you're not okay with it, right? All of a sudden, you'd be surprised, those people have more respect for you. Yeah, and I've had experiences across the board where, you talk about the financial crisis. The first bad experience I had was during the .com boom in 2001, where everything just kind of died this horrible death. Like nobody, it was just, if you were doing .com stuff, it was over. And so I had known that I'd wanted this international job, to work internationally. As a refugee, the idea of living in the US and going to like Europe and working and living was just crazy, right? And just amazing. So even before I got laid off of this job, I started to look for an international job. But once I was laid off, it was like full on applying. Every morning I'd get up at 5 a.m. and apply, look on the job boards at the time, just, like Indeed. And I would apply for these jobs that if I had one thing that was one of the 10 bullets, I would apply. And my reasoning to myself was, this is the job I want. It is not my job to weed myself out. That is somebody else's job. And I would tailor each resume and each cover letter to make it very specific to the job. So I wasn't just like sending out random stuff that people didn't care about. And finally had a recruiter respond, and he said, you're not appropriate for this job, but I have another job that you'd actually be a really great fit for. And through him and through some other contacts that I had, this very kind man that had worked with my boss in my most recent job at the time, who was also laid off the same time I was, he happened to work for the company. So he invited me in for breakfast at the office. He told me about the company that I was applying for through this random recruiter. And he gave me the DL on the role in the company. He didn't know who I was. There was no reason for him to meet me. He was just a kind man. And then, the information he gave me really helped me with the interviews. I was given the job. And then after I moved there, he said, I still have a house there. There's nobody living in it. Do you want to like live in my house and like take care of it for me? So it's this like beauty of not only like what you do and how your persistence in the way that you reach out, but it's also how you connect with people. Like somebody offering to have you live in their home, like their 3-bedroom home that they have with like their wife and children, but they're not living there at the time. So you could take care of it, because they've met you once or twice, kind of out of control. So it's a path that it's part luck and it's part how you come across to the world, right?
Well, I think this is what I was going to get to, is the experiences that you had, literally how to be at 5 years old when you're being passed off to a pirate, from that young age to every single step that you've ever had. There's a consciousness on how you need to be, which is part of what great connectors do, whether it's connecting these jobs or careers or connecting your personality to the people that you work with. There are certain people who can pick it up faster. And it's probably also led to the reason why you deal as a very nice, kind person with relationships, business development, enterprise relationships. Do you agree with what I'm saying here? That this, a lot of people don't think about it when they look at it, that all their experiences of resilience or moving through things are actually impressive, but they do help to define how you attack a problem moving forward.
Yeah, I think if you find that a certain path works for you, you lean on that path. And I found that sincerity and authenticity really works. And just telling people like, giving them your appreciation, explaining your appreciation and gratitude, but telling them sincerely like what your problem is that you need their help to fix. Applying for a job out of college, I wanted to work on the East Coast and I wanted to do management consulting. And nobody was hiring people from UCLA from the East Coast because they had their pick of Ivy League kids, right? So it was just not a thing. And I cold called my way into an interview with Coopers and Lybrand, just calling their New York office saying, I want to be there. And they said, okay, you interview with the LA office and then we'll send you out here and we'll interview you. But we don't normally interview people out there. I said, great. And this is not, I think, something necessarily somebody would think that they could cold call management consulting firms and like find somebody to help them. I was lucky to find this kind woman, Helen Metzger. I'll remember her forever. And when I came to interview with the LA office, I went to the career board at UCLA. My name was not on the interview list, and I thought there had been a mistake. And so I called her back and I said, my name's not on the board. She said, oh, there must have been a mistake. Let me fix that. So I got in, and the guy I interviewed with was like, I don't like being second guessed. I took your name out of the pile myself. And, I was like, oh boy, because I didn't know that's what had happened. And so I just said, okay, I'm here. Let's just, it's great to meet you. Let's do this. And at the end of the interview, it was the last interview of the day. He said, you're the most interesting person I've met today. I'm going to send you on to New York. And I got my job. But that was just the cusp. It was being persistent, emailing and cold calling. And showing up, and even though somebody was unhappy to see you, just kind of bringing your best. But all the work that had come up before that, I had applied to Ernst & Young and Deloitte and all these other firms, and I'd gotten interviews at a good number of them. And my first interview with Ernst & Young, I just bombed it entirely. So bad. Like I knew there was no way I was getting a job. And then I reached out to the two guys that had interviewed me, and I said, hey, I totally get that I just bombed horribly. And I would really appreciate your feedback because at some point I do want a job, like in consulting, even if it's not with you. And that would mean a lot to me to get your feedback. And they wouldn't respond to me. So I emailed, I had a card from a career night at UCLA, and I emailed the manager that came from Ernst & Young. I said, these two guys that work at Ernst & Young, I interviewed with them. I'm trying to get feedback. They won't respond to my emails. Can you help? And he went and tried to help. And he said, I'm really sorry. These guys want nothing to do with you. And I feel really bad about it, but here's what I'll do. I will come to campus and I will meet you for lunch and I will get to know you and I will tell you what you can do better. He ended up coaching me exactly about what I needed to do, what management consultants look for, the traits that you need to have. And because of him, it wasn't just like that, the fact that I got in front of the guy at Coopers and Lybrand, but it was because somebody had helped me understand what I needed to basically, get across. It's a whole number of people that need to kind of stand up and help you, plus your own luck, plus your persistence, right? So this is like the story of my life, is like the four things that come together that let you do the thing that you really wanted to do.
Tina, you're also a parent.
Yes.
Do you find that when you think about the way you grew up in the unique environment and dealing with all of that, and obviously maybe your child is at a much better stage maybe than you were at that certain age, perspective as it relates to that, how do you handle that component? Because truly when somebody says to someone, well, you didn't have it nearly as hard as I did, couldn't be more true. But a lot of that has to do with how you are as an individual and how you think and you lead, and not only how you parent. I'm just curious how that reacts and how you deal with that as a parent.
I mean, I feel a little sorry for my kid because when he doesn't eat, I'm like, I didn't have food when I was young.
That's where I was going. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a bed to sleep on. And I say that to him, and he asks me questions like, "How come?" And so it gives me an opportunity to tell him that he's got it really good. And so hopefully he's growing up with this perspective that he is a privileged child, and that not everybody is like him. Not everybody has experience, right? Not everybody. So it's I think it's giving your children perspective, and also it's knowing that he doesn't have to go through the hardship that I have. But I want him to stay sharp and understand that that's not his experience. It's out there, and I hope to I plan to take him back to Vietnam and to places where he can contribute and feel like he understands and connects with people who don't have the privilege and that he can help.
Totally. I love asking guests this question on the program, Tina. Very curious to know where this goes. You have been thriving throughout your entire life and career, in every step that you've taken, adjust certain things, and always seem to continue to, whether it's good fortune or hard work or all of the above. which means that you're thriving on most days. But we all have days when we're not quite kicking on all cylinders. Tina, when you're having trouble thriving, who or what practice do you seek to get yourself back on the thriving track?
I think it's really important to have a tribe that believes in you and that pushes you and is not always going to let you off the hook. That's not just people that are saying, yeah, I totally understand, but people that will push back and give you another perspective as well. So I have a tribe, my closest friends that say, when I have a moment of doubt, they'll say to me, you're Tina Tran. You can do this. You've done other things. And so it's having, I think it's so important who you surround yourself with, because it's their values, your values, they need to align, and you need to be supportive of each other. And it's what I need. And also the other thing is physical outlet. I'm somebody that loves the outdoors and very active. So having a really healthy way to clear your mind, right? And be alone. And so between having the right friendships and the right people to support you and that you support, to have the healthy outlets.
Let's do the admin part of the show here, Tina. Share with the listeners all the places people can find you, things you got going on, any links you want. We will put it on the show notes, but it always gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Absolutely. So I'm just Tina Tran on LinkedIn. There's a bunch of us, but you'll find me if you look for Facebook or Microsoft. And on Instagram, my tag is Mean Pea, which is the opposite of Sweet Pea, because I just thought Sweet Pea was too much. Mean Pea, a little spicy,
I like that.
And then on those are the main two things that I'm on. And then on Twitter, I'm just Tina Tran, T with the T at the end. The moniker I would love to get, but have not been able to get, is Brazen, because I feel like that's the thing that's worked for me in life.
By the way, I love the Mean Pea thing. I think that's freaking phenomenal. Brazen and often hungry is what you'll see when you go check her out. I love it. Tina, want to go down Fun Street with me here?
Yeah.
Okay. Share with the listeners your or one of your favorite movies.
For some reason, I think it's because I watched it recently. I love The Goonies, and I love because it's a cast of complete misfits who are all underdogs, going for a dream and having to rely on each other and going on an adventure to make it happen. So that to me is like encompasses the beauty of life.
Recently, I saw, I forget that Josh Brolin was the older brother in that movie. And it totally goes, oh my God, he got to start in Goonies. And of course, Rudy, Sean Astin was in there as well. So it's a good movie. It's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I wonder whatever happened to Chunk. Anyway. Okay, we're going to do the speed round here. And the way this works is as follows. I'm going to ask you something. I want the first thing that comes to your mind. These are things that mostly make you feel good, lift you up, motivate you, make you thrive. Uh-huh. Ready?
Yeah.
A song you love to hear or that pumps you up?
Wow. Let's Get Loud by J-Lo. How embarrassing. That's the first thing I thought
of. A favorite food that's not a dessert?
My mom's everything. She's just an incredible cook. She does incredible Vietnamese food. So anything that my mom puts in front of me that's Vietnamese, killer.
Favorite dessert?
My favorite dessert would be, there's a Vietnamese dessert called chea. And it's kind of like this very sweet kind of porridgey thing. And my nickname, instead of Cookie Monster, is Jam Monster. And that's like my Gmail account. It's really funny. So take Cookie Monster in Vietnam, we have Jam Monster. And that's what I am.
I love it. You got to have the little blue fuzzy things in the googly eyes. It would work really well. An activity you wish you did more of?
I wish I was better at surfing. I'm learning and I'm getting better, but it's hard. It takes time to progress. So more surfing.
An activity you wish you did less of?
Unhealthy activities like, being on social media.
Tina, if I snap my fingers and you can go anywhere in the world, where are you?
Spain. My best friend lives in Spain, just had a baby a year ago. Spain. For her and all the reasons of Spain.
Tina Tran, truly impressive individual. I'm so glad to have you on Thrive Loud. The Mean Pea, the Brazen one is often hungry. And what was that? The Jai Monster? Say that?
Jai Monster, yeah.
The Jai Monster. I like that. We're going to come up with some googly image for you on the artwork. Thank you so much for coming on Thrive Loud. Continue doing what you're doing. Continued success to you, your family, and everything. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, Lou.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.